The council station floated in the darkness between stars, a massive ring of metal and light where dozens of alien species gathered to speak of peace and war. Commander Taman stood in the central chamber, his hands clasped behind his back, watching as General Vorthak approached the speaking platform. The alien general was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick scales that looked like they could stop bullets. His eyes were yellow and cold like a snake watching a mouse. Dr. Hana stood beside Timon, her tablet recording everything. On his other side, Jinwoo kept his face blank, but his jaw was tight. They all knew why they were here. The Krelveth Empire wanted human worlds, and they were not asking nicely. Vorthak's voice boomed through the chamber, translated instantly into dozens of languages. Humans of Earth, your species joined this council 3 years ago. You are new. You are weak. Your bodies are soft. Your bones break easily. You come from a world with weak gravity. You have no claws, no armor, no venom. You are children playing at being adults in a galaxy that will crush you. The other alien species watched in silence. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked away. Everyone in the chamber knew what was coming. The Krelveth had done this before to 17 other species. They always won. The Krelveth Empire offers you protection, Vorthak continued. Give us control of 5 of your colony worlds. We will station our fleets there. We will keep you safe from other threats. You will pay taxes to us, and in return you will survive. This is generous. This is mercy. Taman listened without expression. He had read the reports. He knew what Krelveth protection meant: slavery, resource extraction. Populations worked to death in mines and factories. The 5 colonies they wanted held 60 million humans. The general was asking for 60 million slaves and calling it mercy. You have 7 days to accept, Vorthak said, his eyes fixed on Taman. If you refuse, we will take those worlds by force. Your soft bodies will break. Your weak ships will burn. You will beg for the mercy I offer now. This is the way of the galaxy. The strong rule. The weak serve. This is nature. The general stepped back, clearly expecting fear, expecting submission. The chamber was silent. Taman walked forward to the speaking platform. He was tall for a human, but still much smaller than Vorthak. His uniform was simple, dark blue with silver insignia. He looked out at the assembled aliens, then at the Krelveth general, and then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was not cruel either. It was just a smile, the kind humans give when they hear something amusing. But something strange happened. Several aliens in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Vorthak's head tilted slightly, confused by the expression. General Vorthak, Taman said, his voice calm and clear. Thank you for your offer. We decline. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Species who had faced the Krelveth before looked shocked. No one refused them. Not the first time. Not when it might avoid war. We request 2 weeks to prepare Earth's official response to your empire, Taman continued. We will deliver our answer then. Until that time, we ask that both our peoples maintain peace. Vorthak's scales seemed to darken. You refuse protection? You choose war? We choose to give our full response in 2 weeks, Taman said. That smile never left his face. Is this acceptable, General? The alien general's claws flexed. He was a creature built for violence, and every part of his body showed it. But he was also a leader, and leaders had to follow certain rules in the council chambers. 2 weeks, he growled. Then we will show you what happens to soft creatures who forget their place. Taman bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that somehow felt like mockery. Then he turned and walked away, Dr. Hana and Jinwoo following him. As they left the chamber, they passed through corridors filled with other alien species. An insectoid creature from the Chitter Collective clicked at them nervously. A tall, thin being from the Luminous Accord simply stared. These species knew what was coming. They had all bent to Krelveth demands. They had all chosen survival over pride. When they reached their private ship, Jinwoo finally spoke. Commander, was it wise to smile at him? It seemed to confuse their delegation. Taman sat down in the command chair. The smile was gone now. Humans smile for many reasons, Jinwoo. Happiness, nervousness, politeness. But we also smile when we know something others don't. The general saw a smile and his instincts told him something was wrong, even if his mind doesn't understand why yet. Dr. Hana was reviewing her tablet, looking at thermal scans from the chamber. Taman, look at this. When you smiled, Vorthak's body temperature spiked by 3 degrees. His heart rate increased. His scales released stress pheromones that their species produces when uncertain. He's afraid? Jinwoo asked. Not yet, Hana said. But some part of him recognized a threat response. Humans smile before we do dangerous things. Before we fight. Before we take risks. His instincts picked up on that even if he doesn't consciously know what it means. Taemin looked out at the stars. Earth was far from here, weeks away even at faster-than-light speeds. Humanity's colonies were scattered, vulnerable. The Krelveth had hundreds of warships, millions of soldiers. They had conquered worlds that were stronger than Earth, more advanced than humanity. Set course for home, he said quietly. We have 2 weeks to teach the galaxy what humans really are. The ship turned away from the council station, its engines glowing as it jumped to faster-than-light travel. Behind them, in the council chambers, the other species began to whisper. The humans had refused. The soft, weak species from the small gravity world had said no to the Krelveth Empire. In his command ship, General Vorthak stood before a holographic display of human space. 5 colonies, all within striking distance. 60 million soft bodies, resources, strategic locations. It would be the easiest conquest in his career, but he kept thinking about that smile. About the way the human commander had looked at him with something that was not fear. Vorthak had seen fear in hundreds of species. He knew what it looked like. This was not fear. His second-in-command, Kraleth, approached. General, the humans are fools. They cannot stand against us. Their bodies are weak. Their technology is inferior. We will crush them in days. Yes, Vorthak said, but his claws were still flexed, still tense. Prepare the invasion fleet. Target their colony, Terra Nova. We strike in 14 days. Kraleth saluted and left. Vorthak remained, staring at the human worlds on his display. Somewhere in his predator brain something whispered a warning, but he ignored it. He was Krelveth. He was strong. Humans were prey. He would learn in Blood and Fire that prey animals learn different lessons than predators. That being soft does not mean being weak. That fear is not the same as surrender. But that knowledge would come later, paid for in ways he could not yet imagine. For now he simply prepared for war, certain of victory, unaware that the human's smile had been a promise, not a plea. The galaxy watched and waited. In 2 weeks they would see if the newest species in the council would bend like all the others, or if humanity would teach an old lesson that the strong always forget. Sometimes the prey bite back. The message from Commander Taemin reached Earth 36 hours after leaving the council station. Within minutes, every major government leader was in emergency session. Within hours, Earth's entire military command structure was mobilized. But they were not mobilizing armies. Not yet. In a secure facility beneath Geneva, Sung-ho spread historical documents across a massive table. He was Earth's foremost military historian, a man who had studied every human conflict from ancient times to the present. Around him, holographic displays showed battles from 1,000 years of human warfare. Show me the Krelveth again, he said to the AI assistant. The holograms changed. Now they showed alien battlefields. Krelveth warriors, massive and armored, crushing opposition. Sung-ho watched carefully, his eyes tracking every movement. He had watched these recordings 50 times already. Each time he saw the same pattern. Mi-young entered the room carrying her own data tablets. She was a specialist in psychological warfare, someone who understood how minds broke under pressure. What have you found? She asked. Sung-ho pointed at a hologram showing a Krelveth assault on a fortified position. Watch this. The Krelveth attack with overwhelming force. They have better weapons, better armor, better physical strength. The defenders fight back, kill maybe 3 or 4 Krelveth soldiers, and then watch what happens. Mi-young watched. The Krelveth immediately retreated when they started taking casualties, even though they were winning. They pulled back, regrouped, then attacked from a different angle. They retreat when they take losses, Mi-young said slowly. Every single time, Sung-ho confirmed. It doesn't matter if they're winning. The moment they start losing soldiers, they pull back. They never ever push through casualties. They change tactics instead. Mi-young sat down, her mind working. That's a predator mindset. Apex predators don't take risks. They don't fight when they might get hurt. They find easier prey or a better angle of attack. Exactly. Sung-ho pulled up more data. The Krelveth evolved as solitary ambush hunters. They only formed societies 800 years ago. That's nothing, evolutionarily speaking. They're still thinking like lone predators who can't afford to be injured. Dr. Hana joined them via holographic communication from her lab. I've been analyzing their psychology. The Krelveth understand hierarchy through personal dominance. Their leaders are the strongest fighters. Their society rewards individual achievement. They have almost no concept of sacrificing for the group. What does that mean for us? Sung Ho asked. Hana pulled up genetic data. It means they're strong individually but weak collectively. Humans are the opposite. We're weak individually, but our strength comes from working together. A single human can't beat a single Krelveth. But 100 humans working together can beat 100 Krelveth who are each fighting their own battle. Mi Young was making notes rapidly. If they retreat when taking casualties, they've never learned to push through losses. Every species they've conquered gave up early. No one made them bleed enough to test their resolve. Can we win against them? Sung Ho asked. In a straight fight? No, Hana said bluntly. They're faster, stronger, more durable. They come from a high-gravity world. Their reaction times are better. Their weapons are more advanced. If we try to match them strength for strength, we lose. The room was silent for a moment. Then Mi Young smiled, and it was a cold smile. But we don't need to beat them. We need to break them. A holographic communication request came through. Commander Taemin appeared in the room with them, broadcasting from his ship. What have you learned? He asked. Sung Ho summarized their findings. The Krelveth's strength, their weaknesses, their psychology. When he finished, Taemin was quiet for a long moment. So they've never faced an enemy who wouldn't quit, Taemin said finally. Never, Hana confirmed. Every species they fought either surrendered early or was completely destroyed. They've never experienced sustained resistance. They've never had to decide how much they're willing to lose. Taemin looked at something off-screen. I'm meeting with someone who might help us understand more. A council species who wants to talk privately. The communication switched locations. Now Taemin stood in a small room with another alien. This one was different from the Krelveth, shorter and covered in feathers with large eyes that showed genuine emotion. This is Ambassador Krelox, Taemin said. They represent a species that submitted to the Krelveth 20 years ago. Krelox spoke in a soft musical voice. I risk much by speaking to you. My people bent to Krelveth demands. We gave them 3 of our worlds. Now we work in their factories, mine their resources, serve their empire. Why help us? Ma Young asked. Because someone should fight, Krelox said simply. My people were not warriors. When the Krelveth came, we tried to resist for 6 days. They killed 10,000 of us. We surrendered. Since then, they have worked 3 million of my people to death. I would rather we had fought and lost everything than lived like this. The ambassador pulled up tactical data. I can give you information about their military, their ships, their weapons, their tactics, but I must tell you the truth. No one has ever survived their first assault. They hit hard, they hit fast, and they break their enemies immediately. Species that try to resist are shattered so completely that they beg for surrender within days. Sung Ho leaned forward. How many casualties did your people inflict in those 6 days? 200 Krelveth soldiers died, Krelox said. We lost 10,000. They considered it a bloody battle. Hana did quick calculations. A 50-to-1 kill ratio, and they considered it costly? The Krelveth cannot accept losses the way other species can, Krelox said. Each death is a personal failure to their commanders. Each casualty damages the reputation of their leaders. They would rather retreat and find another way than lose soldiers pushing through resistance. Taemin exchanged glances with his team back on Earth. Ambassador, if a species could sustain resistance, if they could keep fighting despite losses, what would happen? Krelox's feathers ruffled, a sign of uncertainty. I don't know. No one has ever tried. The pain of resisting is too great. The Krelveth are too strong. But theoretically, Mi Young pressed, if someone could endure that pain, if they could make the Krelveth bleed continuously, what then? The ambassador was quiet. I suppose they would have to choose. Keep losing soldiers or withdraw, but no species can endure that much pain. The Krelveth break their enemies too quickly. After the communication ended, Taemin's team sat in silence. Finally, Sung Ho spoke. We can't beat them, but we might be able to outlast them. At what cost? Hana asked quietly. Taemin appeared back on the main screen. Prepare a briefing for Earth's Defense Council. We have 12 days before we give the Krelveth our answer. We need to decide if we're willing to pay the price for resistance. Mi Young looked at the historical data. At thousands of years of human warfare, humans had never been the strongest, never been the fastest, but they had survived ice ages and plagues and predators. They had built civilizations from nothing. They had learned one skill better than any other species. They learned how to refuse to quit. "Commander," she said, "I think we already know the answer. The question is whether we can make the Krelveth understand what they're facing before it's too late." Taemin nodded slowly. "Then let's teach them about humanity. Let's show them what happens when apex predators pick a fight with a species that evolved to be too stubborn to die." The briefing was prepared. The data was compiled. In 10 days, Taemin would stand before Earth's leaders and ask them a simple question. Are you willing to bleed to stay free? And humanity, as it had done 10,000 times before, would answer yes. The Krelveth were coming. They were stronger, faster, better armed. They had never lost. But they had never fought humans before. They had never fought a species that could stare at certain death and smile, not from courage, but from sheer determination to make the other side hurt. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson. The strong don't always win. Sometimes the stubborn do. The invasion fleet arrived at Terra Nova on a clear morning. 15 Krelveth warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, their weapons already charging. On the surface, Captain Dong-hyun watched the sky and knew what was coming. Terra Nova was home to 8 million humans. It had farms, factories, 3 major cities, and a small military garrison. Dong-hyun commanded 500 Marines. Across the planet, there were maybe 3,000 total military personnel. Against what was coming, it was nothing. "All units, this is command," the radio crackled. "Krelveth fleet detected. Estimate 5,000 ground troops. Orbital bombardment beginning in 30 minutes. Evacuate civilian centers. Military units take defensive positions. Orders from Earth are clear. Make them bleed." Private Una checked her rifle for the 10th time. She was 19 years old, the youngest in her unit. "Captain, we can't fight 5,000 of them. We don't have the weapons. We don't have the armor." Dong-hyun looked at his young soldiers. Most were local militia, farmers and factory workers who had basic training. Against Krelveth warriors, they would die quickly. He knew this. They knew this. Earth knew this. "No, we can't fight them head-on," he said. "So we won't. We're going to make them chase us. Make them search for us. And every time they find us, we're going to hurt them before we run. We're going to make this easy conquest into a nightmare." The orbital bombardment began exactly on schedule. Plasma bolts from orbit struck the military bases, the communications towers, the spaceport. Dong-hyun had already evacuated those positions. The Krelveth were wasting ammunition on empty buildings. Then the landing craft came down, massive ships that settled outside the cities, ramps dropping to reveal Krelveth warriors. Sub-Commander Krathex led the ground forces. He was a veteran of 12 conquests, and Terra Nova would be his easiest yet. His soldiers moved in formation. Overwhelming force concentrated on the human defensive lines. The first engagement lasted 11 minutes. 50 human soldiers held a fortified position at the city's edge. The Krelveth hit them with plasma fire and physical assault. The humans fought back desperately. 47 humans died. 3 Krelveth fell. Krathex expected surrender. Instead, the remaining 3 humans retreated into the city, still firing. One of them, badly wounded, set charges that collapsed a building onto the pursuing Krelveth soldiers. 2 more aliens died under the rubble. "Pursuit," Krathex ordered. His soldiers moved into the city streets, but the streets were empty. The humans had vanished. Then the ambushes began. A Krelveth patrol turned a corner. Gunfire erupted from windows above. 2 soldiers fell. The patrol returned fire, destroyed the building. But when they searched it, they found only abandoned weapons and a tunnel leading into the sewers. Another squad entered a warehouse. Explosives hidden in the walls detonated. 4 Krelveth died. The humans who set the trap were already gone, moving through underground passages. Krathex was confused. This was not how conquests worked. The enemy should form defensive lines. They should try to hold ground. Instead, these humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck, killed, and vanished. By nightfall on the first day, the Krelveth controlled the surface. But 18 of their soldiers were dead. 60 more were injured. The humans had lost over 200, but they were still fighting. Small groups constantly moving, turning the entire city into a trap. "They cannot win," Krathex told his officers. "They lose 5 soldiers for every one of ours." They are bleeding themselves dry. But his officers looked uncertain. 18 dead in one day was more than they had lost in entire previous campaigns. The humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to kill as many Krelveth as possible before they died. On the third day, Captain Dong-hyun had 200 soldiers left. They were exhausted, low on ammunition, many wounded. They held a position in the city's underground transit system, a maze of tunnels that the Krelveth were slowly clearing. Private Yuna was with a squad holding a tunnel junction. She had killed 2 Krelveth herself, shooting from cover and retreating before they could respond. Now she was cornered with 3 other soldiers. A Krelveth patrol had trapped them in a dead-end tunnel. "Surrender," the Krelveth leader called out in translated human language. "You have fought well. We will treat you with honor." Yuna looked at her squadmates. They were terrified, so was she. But she thought about Earth's orders. Make them bleed. Make them understand that fighting humans costs too much. She pulled the pin on her last grenade. The explosion killed her and her 3 companions. It also killed 3 Krelveth soldiers and wounded 2 others. When Krathex heard the report, he stood in silence. The humans had chosen death over capture. Even their youngest soldiers preferred to die fighting than surrender. By day 5, the Krelveth had lost 120 soldiers. The humans had lost over 1,000, but the fighting was not stopping. The humans kept attacking from the ruins, from tunnels, from positions made from their own dead. Captain Dong-hyun radioed to all remaining units. He was in a collapsed building, bleeding from shrapnel wounds, coordinating the last pockets of resistance. "All units, this is Dong-hyun. Earth Command says relief is coming. Admiral Jae-hoon's fleet is 3 days out. We just have to hold just 3 more days." He did not say what they all knew. 3 more days meant most of them would be dead. The Krelveth were slowly crushing them, but every hour they held, every ambush they sprung, cost the aliens more lives. In orbit, Subcommander Krathex made a decision that no Krelveth officer had ever made before. He requested reinforcements, not because he was losing. He was winning by every metric, but the cost was too high. His soldiers were demoralized. They moved through the city in fear, expecting every corner to hide human weapons. They were apex predators, and somehow they had become the prey. General Vorthak received the request on his command ship. Reinforcements, for a battle against soft humans, for a conquest that should have been finished in hours. He looked at the casualty reports. 120 Krelveth dead, 500 wounded, against an enemy that started with 3,000 and now had less than 300 left. By any military standard, it was a victory, but it did not feel like a victory. It felt like being bitten by something that should have been harmless. It felt like bleeding from wounds that should not exist. "Send 2,000 more warriors," Vorthak ordered. "Finish this." But even as he gave the order, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The humans were losing. They had always been losing. So why did he feel like something was going wrong? On Terra Nova, Captain Dong-hyun received word that more Krelveth were coming. 2,000 more. Against his 270 remaining soldiers, he should have felt despair. Instead, he felt something else. Pride. Because every Krelveth soldier they sent was one more admission that humans were not easy prey. Every reinforcement was proof that the soft species from the weak gravity world could make the strong bleed. "All units," he broadcast. "They're sending more. That means we're winning, not the battle. We're winning the war of will. Every one of them we kill makes the next one more afraid. So let's give them something to fear. For the next 3 days we show them what happens when you start a fight with humans. We might die. Probably will, but we'll make sure they remember this place forever." In the ruins of Terra Nova, the last human soldiers prepared for 3 more days of hell. They were outgunned, outnumbered, exhausted, and terrified. But they were human, and humans had learned across thousands of years that sometimes survival is not about being strong. Sometimes it is about refusing to break, no matter how much it hurts. The Krelveth were about to learn that lesson. They were about to understand that there are things worse than losing a battle, like winning one that costs too much, like defeating an enemy who makes you afraid of the next fight. The galaxy watched Terra Nova and wondered what they were seeing. It looked like a massacre, but something was wrong. The victims were supposed to surrender. Instead, they were smiling in the face of death and pulling triggers. The message reached the Galactic Council on Day 7 of the Terra Nova battle. It was not a military report. It was a broadcast from a human journalist named Da-Un, who had stayed on the planet when the invasion began. Her footage showed what the Council species had never seen before. It showed human soldiers fighting from positions made of rubble and corpses. It showed medics running through plasma fire to reach wounded comrades. It showed engineers rigging demolished buildings to collapse on Krelveth patrols. But more than that, it showed something the galaxy could not understand. It showed humans who were clearly losing, clearly dying, who somehow kept fighting anyway. Councillor Thranok watched the broadcast in the council chambers. Around the circular room, representatives from 40 species watched the same footage. They saw a human soldier with both legs destroyed by plasma fire, still shooting at Krelveth positions. They saw a medic share her last medical supplies with a wounded civilian, then pick up a rifle and join the defense. They saw humans fighting in shifts, sleeping in 2-hour intervals, organizing their resistance with impossible efficiency despite being crushed. "This is madness," a representative from the Quill Collective whispered. "They cannot win. Why do they keep fighting?" Da-Un's voice narrated the footage. "Today is day 7. We started with 3,000 defenders. We have 412 left. The Krelveth started with 5,000. They brought 2,000 more 3 days ago. They now have 5,800 effective soldiers on the ground. We have killed or wounded over 1,200 of them." The numbers scrolled across the display. The humans had better than a 3-to-1 kill ratio despite being completely outmatched. But more shocking was what came next. The footage showed a human command post. Captain Dong-hyun was there, his uniform covered in blood and dust. He was briefing his remaining officers. "Earth fleet arrives in 6 hours. We just need to hold 6 more hours. I know you're tired. I know you're scared. But we've already done the impossible. We made them bleed. We made them afraid. 6 more hours and we show the entire galaxy that humanity does not break." Someone off camera asked, "Captain, what if the fleet doesn't arrive in time?" Dong-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, and it was the same smile Commander Taemin had given General Vorthak. "Then we die. But we die knowing that every Krelveth soldier who faces humans in the future will remember Terra Nova. They'll remember that we don't surrender. That's worth dying for." The broadcast cut to exterior footage. The city was in ruins. Fires burned everywhere. Krelveth patrols moved cautiously through streets expecting ambush, and they were right to be cautious. Even with 400 humans left, the attacks continued. A sniper here, an explosive there. Constant, endless resistance. Councillor Thranok stood up. "This must stop. The humans are being slaughtered. They must surrender." But before anyone could respond, another broadcast came through. This one was from Admiral Jae-hoon's fleet, which had just arrived at the edge of the Terra Nova system. Admiral Jae-hoon was a calm man in his 50s, with gray hair and steady eyes. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, and his message was broadcast on all frequencies, visible to both the Krelveth fleet and the Council. "General Vorthak, this is Admiral Jae-hoon of the Earth Defense Fleet. I am here to discuss the situation on Terra Nova." In his command ship, Vorthak watched the human fleet. 12 ships against his 15. The humans were still outnumbered. "There's nothing to discuss," Vorthak replied. "Your forces on Terra Nova are defeated. Surrender the colony, and we will allow the survivors to evacuate." Jae-hoon's expression did not change. "General, you currently have approximately 5,800 soldiers on Terra Nova. Our ground forces have killed or wounded 1,200 of your warriors. We have lost 2,688 soldiers. We know this number exactly because we count our dead. All of them, by name." The Admiral pulled up a display. It showed a list of names. Thousands of names. Every human who had died on Terra Nova. "These are our losses, General. Private Yuna Mincio, age 19. Sergeant Park Soo-jin, age 24. Lieutenant Han Bora, age 31. We know every single one. We honor every single one, and we are prepared to add more names to this list. 10,000 more. 20,000 more. However many it takes to hold Terra Nova." The council chambers erupted in shock. Species who had bent to Krelveth demands could not believe what they were hearing. The humans were willing to lose 20,000 soldiers for one colony? It was insane, but Jae-hoon was not finished. "General, we have studied your species. We know your history, your psychology, your tactics. We know that you retreat when you take casualties. We know that your culture cannot accept losses the way ours can. So here's my question for you. How many Krelveth soldiers are you willing to lose? Because I can tell you exactly how many humans we will sacrifice, all of them if necessary. Vorthak's claws dug into the console in front of him. You are weak. You are soft. You cannot threaten us. I am not threatening you, General. I am explaining reality. Jehun's voice remained calm. You have already lost 1,200 soldiers taking a colony that was barely defended. We have 40 more colonies. Each one will cost you more. Earth itself has 12 billion people. If you want to conquer humanity, calculate how many Krelveth soldiers will die. Then ask yourself if your empire can accept that cost. In the council chambers, Councillor Threnok tried to interrupt. This is madness. Humans, you cannot win this war. You must negotiate peace. Commander Tae Min, who had been watching silently, finally spoke. Counselor, with respect, you misunderstand. We are not trying to win. We are demonstrating cost. Cost? Threnok asked. The cost of fighting humans, Tae Min said. Every species in this council bent to Krelveth demands because the cost of resistance seemed too high. We are showing you and them that the cost of conquering humans is higher, much higher. On Terra Nova, Captain Dong Hyun received word that the Earth fleet had arrived. His remaining soldiers, exhausted and bleeding, let out cheers. They had held. Against impossible odds, they had held long enough, but they also knew the battle was not over. Vorthak could still order his ground forces to finish them. He could orbital bombard the city. He could commit even more troops. The Krelveth were winning. They just had to decide if winning was worth the cost. Sub-Commander Krathek stood among his soldiers on Terra Nova. They were supposed to be victorious conquerors. Instead, they moved through the ruins like they were walking through a nightmare. Every corner might hide a human weapon. Every pile of rubble might explode. They had lost over 1,200 warriors to an enemy that should have been helpless. Sub-Commander, one of his officers said quietly, the soldiers are uncertain. They do not understand why the humans keep fighting. It frightens them. Krathek understood. He was frightened too. Not of death. Krelveth warriors did not fear death in battle. But this was different. The humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to make every Krelveth soldier afraid of the next battle. They were turning themselves into a warning. In orbit, General Vorthak stared at the tactical displays. He could win this battle. He had the ships, the soldiers, the weapons. But Admiral Jehun's words echoed in his mind. How many are you willing to lose? For the first time in Krelveth military history, a general faced a species that was not trying to defeat him. They were trying to make victory too expensive to want. The broadcast from Da-Un continued. She showed the last human positions. 400 soldiers wounded and exhausted, still fighting, still organized, still determined. The footage showed something that should have been impossible. It showed an army that had lost but refused to accept defeat. The Earth fleet is here, Da-Un narrated. But we do not know if the Krelveth will withdraw. We do not know if we will survive the next hour. What we do know is that we made them pay. Every meter of this city cost them blood. And if they want to finish us, it will cost them more. That is humanity's answer to the Krelveth Empire. We are not the strongest. We are not the toughest. But we are too expensive to conquer. The galaxy watched and slowly began to understand. The humans were not insane. They were not suicidal. They were teaching a lesson that predator species never learned. That strength is not enough. That victory means nothing if it costs everything. General Vorthak had a decision to make, and the entire galaxy was watching to see what happens when an unstoppable force meets an unbendable will. General Vorthak stood alone in his command chamber, staring at the tactical display. The numbers glowed in the dim light. 5,800 Krelveth soldiers on Terra Nova. 1,200 dead or wounded. 400 humans left defending the ruins of their city. By every military calculation, he was winning, but it felt like losing. A communication request came through. Private channel. Commander Tae Min wanted to speak with him directly. Vorthak considered refusing, but something made him accept. The holographic image of the human commander appeared before him. Tae Min looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes, but that smile was still there, faint but present. General Vorthak, thank you for accepting my call. I do not need to speak with you, Vorthak said. Your forces on Terra Nova are finished. Surrender or be destroyed. I am not calling to negotiate surrender, Tae Min said. I am calling to help you understand something. Because I think part of you already knows, but your mind has not accepted it yet. Vorthak's scales rippled with anger. I understand everything. You are weak. We are strong. This is the natural order. You are stronger than us, Taman agreed. Individually, every Krelveth soldier can beat any human soldier. Your species evolved as apex predators. You are faster, more durable, more powerful. Everything about you is designed for dominance. Yes, Vorthak said, so you must submit. Taman shook his head slowly. General, do you know what humans were for most of our evolution? We were prey. For hundreds of thousands of years, we were hunted by creatures stronger than us. Creatures with claws and teeth and speed. We should have gone extinct. Do you know why we did not? Vorthak said nothing. We learned, Taman continued. We learned that we could not outrun predators, so we learned to outlast them. We learned that we could not outfight them alone, so we learned to work together. We learned that individual strength meant nothing if the group was strong. Every predator on Earth eventually learned to leave humans alone. Not because we could beat them, but because we were too much trouble. We bit back. We set traps. We hunted the hunters. We made being strong not matter as much as being persistent. These are words, Vorthak said. Words do not change reality. My soldiers control Terra Nova. Your soldiers are terrified on Terra Nova, Taman said quietly. Sub-Commander Krathex has requested orbital bombardment 3 times. He has asked for withdrawal twice. Your apex predator warriors are afraid of the prey. Why do you think that is? Vorthak's claws flexed. He did not answer. Taman leaned forward slightly. Because they have learned what every predator on Earth learned. That humans do not stop. We can be hurt. We can be killed, but we do not break. Your soldiers move through Terra Nova expecting death around every corner. They are right to expect it. Because my people down there are not fighting to win anymore. They are fighting to make every Krelveth soldier remember this battle. They are fighting to make you afraid of the next one. I fear nothing, Vorthak growled. Then why are you talking to me? Taman asked. Why did you accept this call? If you fear nothing, you would simply destroy Terra Nova and move on. But you are hesitating. Some part of you, some deep instinct, is warning you that something is wrong. Vorthak turned away from the hologram. You have killed 1,200 of my soldiers. We have killed over 2,000 of yours. You are losing. Yes, Taman agreed. We are losing the battle, but we are winning something more important. We are winning the question of will. General, your species became dominant by being strong. You evolved to win fights quickly with overwhelming force. You never learned to endure. You never had to. But humans? We evolved to endure. We evolved to be hurt and keep going. To be beaten and stand back up. To watch our friends die and keep fighting anyway. The human commander's expression became harder, colder. You wanted to make us submit because you thought we were weak. But you made a fatal error. You assumed that because we can feel fear, we will obey it. Every human on Terra Nova is terrified right now. They are exhausted. They are watching their friends die. Captain Dong Hyun has been fighting for 7 days with shrapnel in his chest. Private Yuna killed herself with a grenade rather than be captured. These people are not brave because they do not feel fear. They are brave because they feel fear and do it anyway. Vorthak looked back at the hologram. What are you saying? I am saying that you need to make a choice, Taman said. You can keep fighting. You can send more soldiers to Terra Nova. You can kill every last human there. You will win. But then you will have to face the next colony. And the next? And eventually Earth itself. And every single time we will make you bleed. Not because we can win, but because that is what we do. We make winning cost too much. Taman's smile faded completely. His face was serious now, almost sad. Withdraw from Terra Nova, General. Not because you cannot win, you can, but because you will learn what every predator on Earth eventually learned. That fighting humans cost more than we are worth. That defeating us is possible, but surviving the victory is not. You are asking me to retreat, Vorthak said slowly. From an enemy I am defeating. I am asking you to be smart, Taman replied. Your species values strength. Ours values persistence. You think the strong should rule. We think the stubborn should survive. Those two philosophies are about to collide across 41 colony worlds and Earth itself. Calculate the cost, General. Really calculate it. How many Krelveth soldiers will die taking Earth? Millions, tens of millions? And what will you gain? Resources you can get elsewhere. Territory that will resist you forever. Is it worth it? Vorthak was silent for a long moment. In his mind, he saw Terra Nova. He saw his soldiers moving through ruins, afraid of an enemy they were defeating. He saw Subcommander Krathex requesting reinforcements for a battle he was winning. He saw 1,200 Krelveth names added to casualty lists for a colony that should have fallen in hours. "If I withdraw," he said slowly, "it will be seen as weakness. The other council species will think the Krelveth can be resisted." "Yes," Taemin said. "They will. And maybe that is something the galaxy needs to learn. That strength alone does not give you the right to dominate others. That sometimes the weak teach the strong when to stop." The communication ended. Vorthak stood alone with his thoughts. He could give the order to finish Terra Nova, to bombard the city from orbit, to send 10,000 more soldiers if needed. He could crush humanity completely, but Taemin was right. Even if he won, he would lose. Every Krelveth soldier who fought humans would remember Terra Nova. They would remember fear. They would hesitate in future battles. The reputation of Krelveth invincibility would be broken, not by defeat, but by the cost of victory. He made his decision. 3 hours later, Krelveth forces began withdrawing from Terra Nova. The massive landing ships descended, loading soldiers who moved quickly, eager to leave. Subcommander Krathex was the last to board, and he did not look back at the ruined city. Captain Dong-hyun watched the alien ships lift off. His remaining soldiers, 317 of them, stood in the ruins and watched their enemy leave. They were too exhausted to cheer, too broken to celebrate. They had survived, but the cost was written on their faces. In the council chambers, Councillor Threnok demanded an explanation. General Vorthak's hologram appeared before the assembled species. His voice was calm, professional. "The Krelveth Empire has concluded operations on Terra Nova. The strategic value of the target did not justify continued expenditure of military assets. We are withdrawing our claim to human territories." The council erupted. Species who had bent to Krelveth demands could not believe it. The unstoppable empire was retreating from humans? But privately, on a secure channel, Vorthak told his sub-commanders something different. "We are apex predators. We are stronger, faster, and superior to humans in every physical measure. But they are persistence predators. And persistence predators do not need to be stronger. They just need to follow you until you collapse from exhaustion. The humans prove they will not collapse. Engaging them further is not warfare. It is mutual destruction. We choose to survive." On Earth, the news spread quickly. Humanity had not won. They had lost over 2,600 soldiers. Terra Nova was in ruins. But the Krelveth had withdrawn. The unstoppable empire had stopped. Commander Taemin traveled to Terra Nova 3 days later. He stood in the ruined city with Captain Dong-hyun, looking at the memorial wall they had built. 2,688 names were carved there. Every human who died defending the colony. "Did we win, Commander?" Dong-hyun asked quietly. Taemin touched the wall gently, his fingers tracing names. "No. We just showed them that fighting humans does not have winners. Only degrees of losing. They can break our bodies. They can destroy our cities. But they cannot make us quit. And that costs them everything." Dong-hyun looked at his own soldiers, wounded and traumatized. "Was it worth it? All these lives?" "I do not know," Taemin said honestly. "But we proved something. We proved that humanity will not bend. That might save millions of lives in the future. Other species will resist now. The Krelveth will think twice before demanding submission. These soldiers did not die for nothing. They died